Hello, I'm NovaSC, and I'm going to bring you a Protoss versus Terran. I'm the Protoss in the top left, and my opponent is a Master level Terran with the name, and I'm pretty sure this hotkey is Control N. It is, and his name is Amazonic. So I'm bringing you this game because I had a very infrequent. Let's put that down. That's really distracting. I had a very infrequent afternoon where I was free and I got to get a few games in, and this was the last game I played of the day, and I'd won quite a few games in the day, so my Marauder had risen quite high enough to play against Masters again, which is always a nice feeling. When you can do that in one day from being in Diamonds, that's just the dream. Anyway, so I've been starting with pretty much the same opening in all matchups with regard to the first few structures. And that being quite controversial, I believe, and I've been delaying this here second gas in favour of getting a Nexus earlier and guessing second gateway and cybernetics core earlier. Well, I mean the cybernetics core is the same time, but the gateway is definitely going to be in there faster. And I've had quite a bit of success with this because units come a bit faster than my opponent's expecting, considering they scout in and see a base. Well, I'm assuming this is what's going on in their heads, as they'll scout in and see a base, and they won't expect any aggression very soon, and it does indeed happen. So here my opponent's going straight for a command center, and he's walling off with it instead of using a depot. It's just a very large depot there, and he's going for a single gas, so it's quite normal. I'm not sure how much I like this positioning. He may as well... Surely he may as well just put it down here, I don't know. I think most people just put it down there. I don't understand. He's not exactly hiding it, is he? So I'm going straight for a pylon here, and that was actually my third pylon. So I'm going to actually be using that one for supply. And my second gas is coming on in after gateway. Most people, like I said, I think quite a few people are going for oracles still, even after they've been nerfed a little bit, and most people go for tech faster, but I'm going for the aggressive build. This is actually quite an old school style. My probe got sacrificed in there to see what was going on. I did in fact see the command center, if you're wondering. It's quite an old school style I'm going to be doing here, and this is early aggression with a couple extra gateways. I should be adding on another one. Oh, where's this extra? Where's the extra? If you're wondering why what these probes are doing, I have 16 on minerals, so they're just idle. There we go, there's an extra gateway. So I'm going to go for 3 gateway aggression. Should be sending down my stalkers soon. The only reason I'm not doing that straight away is because I'm putting my stalker here to protect from reapers and such. Did he make a reaper? I'm not sure if he made a reaper this game. I can't actually remember, my bad. But never mind. He's gone for marines, he's going straight for a marauder. His first upgrade is stim packs, so he's going to be able to put aggression on us quite quickly. Where is his factory? He must have a factory. Does he have one? He doesn't have a factory. Interesting. Well, he must smell that there's some sort of aggression coming from me. Because I'm not sure else of a reason why he'd delay a factory like this. Either that, or he's going to put on a lot of aggression himself off 3 barracks, which actually that might have been the case. He might have been meaning to be aggressive. So this push from me, adding on some stalkers and a sentry there, isn't going to do too much damage, whereas normally against most sort of standard openings this would do a hell of a lot of damage. And the setup my opponent has. So the reason I added on a sentry there instead of an extra stalker was because I know I'm not going to be able to break this with just stalkers, because he's got a bunker and he's got SCVs repairing, so I thought I might have the chance of being able to batter it down with a force field, pushing away the SCVs, but I see he's got way too much for that to happen. I think he just has too many units for me, even if there was no bunker there. So I'm just going to keep trying to push in, and pressurize him a bit and force some units out of him. I actually forced another bunker, which is nice, even though he hasn't seen any more units warp in from me, but he's being just extra careful, which is what I wanted. That's taking up some minerals from him. Trying to snipe an SCV didn't really work, but at least I'm not using any stalkers. I think a lot of players will overcommit with their units in these sort of aggressive movements and waste units when they don't have to. I don't think I lost anything really. Units lost is L. Nope, only lost a probe so far, so I don't lose any units in that, and I forced that bunker. You probably made more units than you would have done otherwise. So that was pretty useful for me. And now I have to go home and be, oh my god, he has a lot of shit in that sort of panic mode. So I've added on a couple of sentries and zealots, and I'm adding on 3 new gateways. I have a robo, I go straight for robotics, observers, very important. Because I know that he'll have a stim, he has a lot of units. All he needs is some medevacs for him to be able to put some serious pressure on, so I want to be able to see around the outskirts of my base and be able to identify when drops are coming and be able to react to them accordingly. A 3rd base coming in from him, which is fortunate for him. I highly doubt he scouted. I highly doubt he scouted, but let's have a look. No, he hasn't scouted at all game, impressively enough, whereas I've been all up in his face. But luckily for him, I'm also taking a base, so the choice to take a 3rd there was really good. I have to remind you, this is a master-level opponent, and he just hasn't scouted. And you can probably tell by his APM, if you don't think he's been playing very well. It's quite reasonable at 200 and so. Though of course diamonds can have that level of APM, but yeah. So it's quite interesting. I just find it quite interesting that when Terrans in Master League don't, this one in particular just doesn't scout very much. He's just very confident in his build, I guess. Or maybe he just feels really pinned back after the aggression I put on him there. So yeah, I've added on gateways here. In these sort of situations, I would normally make very few units, but I've actually made far more than I normally would. And that's just because I saw how many units he had. I have lots of sentries though. And sentries, in addition to this Robotech, is going to make me really sneaky when it comes to unit production. I'm going to make very few, and then I'm just going to power out gateway units as soon as I see him moving out. Other than that, all I need is to work on my important tech units. And I need to morph that into a gateway. There we go. See, I did that for him. Now I'm moving into 3 bases, so I've spread out a bit. It becomes extremely difficult to defend these sort of locations where you're in a ball, because medevacs can fly around very easily. The air distance between this is very short, so medevacs can abuse it. But luckily for me, he hasn't even made very many medevacs this game. He's only got the 1 of his army there, but he does have 3 tanks, which is very scary. Again, luckily for me, I've been working on these robo units quite a bit, and I already have a Colossus and an Immortal. After scouting that he has units in the middle of the map, I've moved into the middle of the map myself, and that's because I can use these force fields to push him back and buy me more time to work on more robo units. And what this has also done is forced him to siege up prematurely, which means that he's nowhere near my base when he actually sieges. And as soon as he unsieges, I'm going to have to push back in there again and try and force him to siege again. Observers monitoring the map so that I can see where his army moves to. I'm here at the moment, which isn't ideal, but I should be able to see that very soon. Very soon. I think that's seen it, absolutely. So I'm going to move back. Move, guys, move. And now I'm going to move back, leaving the observer there in case he moves into that location. 3rd base for him, settling in, he's adding on those 2 extra gases, but mine is more saturated than his. A push in here, volleys from the tanks doing a hell of a lot of damage, and the Marauder's getting a good arc there, so I can't really push down here any further. Luckily again for me, he's sieged a long way away from my natural base, so not ideal for him. Do I have range? I do, and I have +1, so these pluses do a lot of damage at long range, especially to the Marines, which he has a reasonable amount of. Yeah, that's 17 Marines right there. But he's very Marauder heavy, which is a very good composition against all those robotics units I have here. I'm going for a Zealot counter-attack here. I had excess minerals, as you often do as Protoss, so I decided to send those to his base and try and pull him back. In fact, those few Zealots got 3 tanks, and he left his tanks sieged up here behind, and I got another 3 tanks. Sorry, I got 2 of the Zealots and 3 here, making a total of 5 tank kills, which has severely weakened my opponent's army here. He's still very high on Marauders though, which is good for him, because I don't have air units or anything like that, so he might as well. It's a very strong competition for him, but he really needed those tanks. Otherwise, I'm just gonna wreck basically. Now the Marauders have got a very good angle here. I wasn't able to get the force fields in time. Probably could have still. I just decided not to, unfortunately. So he got a hell of a damage off on me there. Cluster's running to safety. And unfortunately I lost this 4th base. My opponent is moving into a 4th base of his own, but I'm sending DTs to each of these bases and he doesn't have turrets or planetaries. He's not even building a planetary yet. And back home I'm working on Size Storm, and I have 2 Templar, I think, just 2 Templar there. DT's putting in a lot of work here. How many kills there? 5? This is severely limited my opponent's attacking potential here, and he has to bring his army back. Gives me lots of room to remuster my forces here. I was in a very nasty position here where I only had a Colossus and maybe a couple more morsels left against this whole army. So this was a big blunder by me, and luckily I came back into the game with a well-placed counter-attack with Dark Templar. It wouldn't have been very wise for him to push much further than this 4th base, to be fair. He could have obviously poked up, but just going straight into my main wouldn't be wise because I could have lots of more units than he actually thought. But in fact, he probably didn't know just how close he was to winning there. If I used the force fields more effectively, that shouldn't have done nearly as much damage as it did. I just messed up a bit there on the control in the middle of the map. And I'm trying to move into this 4th again. I'm really going to struggle again. He's still got a very good army, and I see it straight away and run away, losing my observer in the process. Another Dark Templar, ready to make a move. I do have Storm, so I'm going to be able to put a lot of pressure back on here. This is the reason he used to attack before, actually. Luckily that I had the Dark Templar putting in work and pulling him back, because those Storms were an absolute lifesaver. I didn't have Storm ready before. My micro's slipping up a little bit, though his Marauders are so strong he could basically just A-click and kill everything at this point. He did have an army advantage, he had a lot more units. Luckily for me again, he really messed up there and overextended. Oh dear, he probably should have retreated a bit more early. Maybe distracted by this Dark Templar. Hacking away here. Actually not killing anything. Actually managing not to kill anything. Wow, impressive. Is that going to kill anything? Oh, I got to see. I decided to attack at last, attack SCVs at last, but yeah. That came down to the wire, that pressure just there. Again, DT is pulling him back more than he'd like. But I almost lost my 3rd base. I did lose my 4th base again, which means that he's in a much better situation than me. In fact, he's ahead in 40 supply at this point. I'm working on my double upgrades. You saw before I had that +1, now I'm at 2-1. Interestingly, didn't add on the army yet. I should be doing that now, shouldn't I? Why am I not adding? Okay, whatever. I'd normally add on armor, I promise you. I normally get the +1 shield before the +2 armor, but I would get armor. +1 at least. Anyway, so he's ahead in economy, but he hasn't been ahead in tech for a long time. He's been way down on tech, with the exception of these very handy Vikings which are picking off my Colossus. Unfortunately though, I do seem to have no Colossus and a whole 5 Immortals, when his army is mostly Marauders at this point. So it doesn't look very promising for him. A very tactical movement here, luckily spotted by my observer. So not only am I going to have 2 cannons here, I'm actually going to warp in a couple Stalkers, which pick off 2 extra Vikings. Very cost efficient warp in there. And I'm just adding on mass Immortal at this point, because I see that he had Vikings. That's going to take up a bit of supply. I saw he had lots of Marauders, and my Immortal count is going to be devastating at this point. 5 Immortals, another one coming in. It's constantly adding on observers this game. They kept getting picked off, and I kept replacing them, and I'm going to increase the amount of observers I have at the same time at this point as well, because I want more and more vision. More units on the map, more possible drops which can happen at the same time. You really want to be on top of everything. Plus, you can make more use of the observers in the end game because you have more gateways to warp in units and defend locations which are under attack. I keep building pylons on the top, which is warping in units and pulling him back. And now I'm pushing in here trying to trade cost efficiently here. Maybe deal some damage, but he does planetary, so I'm not actually getting able to too much pressure on reliably. I did have 5 immortals, so I might have been able to gun that down, but it was a bit risky. Instead, I traded quite well and got out there with a recall. Very well played there. If I do say so myself. I often don't see recalls used as effective like that on the fly. Usually they're more premeditated things nowadays because they take so long. But that was a good call using that there because I knew that his army, it was close, so I couldn't stay around, but I had enough time to recall. Pushing on in here, still have some sentries, interestingly. They must have been around for a long time in this game. Though they do so little damage, they still don't have any kills. Storm's wrecking my opponent here, though unfortunately running out just when I needed them the most. Even though Immortals should do really well against the Marauders here, he just has so many that they die immediately before even getting any shots off. And this is getting really bad. I do have a pylon, 2 pylons in fact, on the right hand side, so I can put some pressure on with units if I wanted to. But he's just gunning down on my bases here. I walked in a couple High Templar before, which are going to come in very useful, and they have, as you've seen. And they've really trimmed down my opponent's army here. Considering I've just lost the whole base and taken some severe losses army-wise, I'm doing really well. And I actually did a flank here to finish off the retreating units. And this is amazingly enough evened up the army supply, even though I took some terrible losses and lost the base. DT is coming in extremely useful, and he just doesn't seem to scan. Maybe he doesn't have any available? I'm not sure. There we go. But these immortals, man. 5 immortals, they just last forever, as you'd imagine from the name. Funny pun. And I just have immortals at this point, microing them against a few units, and splitting them against mines. They put in a lot more extra work, and it's actually reduced his army down to 0. And from those pylons that I mentioned earlier, I was able to do a flank, and if you have a look at the kills that these guys have gotten, so probably mostly on the TTs, 9 kills in total, that's 13, I think that was 16 kills in total, which is why somehow I've overtaken supply after a massive win for him, moving this army movement here up into my natural and then down to retreat, and killing build bases on the retreat is a fantastic army movement. But he wasn't able to utilise it properly because he stuck around too long, took too much damage from High Templar, lost units on the retreat, and I was able to put damage back onto him while harassing at the back. A nice army movement out from my opponent now. I say this because he must know that after crippling that base, I'm going to have to invest quite a bit in economy, have to rebuild that Nexus, rebuild workers, probably expand myself additionally, because I saw how many bases my opponent was on, and he must know he's ahead in bases now, so putting pressure on you now, preventing me from macroing up too much. You should do this in a non-committal fashion ideally, and that's not what he wants to do at all. So he saw 5+1 immortals, he saw 6 immortals, 3 Colossus, and like 6 High Templar, and thought that was a good thing to like move command into. I'm not really sure what he was thinking there, so that's a big loss for him. More counter-attacking has been going on throughout this, adding on a few extra kills, I'm not sure how many total. Using up his scans to kill DTs. DTs are so beefy they actually kill what units even when being detected. Very nice. And I still have these 5 immortals in this army, and this is strong. This is a strong army here. It looks small, but it is really, really powerful. This is just powerful tech units. There aren't just standard gateway units in here. This is just Robo and High Templar, Archon. And you can see I actually stopped reducing a majority of my gateway units a little while ago, and they were all just being used to counterattack. And he actually left the game at that point. Impressively enough, he was way ahead at one point. I think that was 40 supply, I think I remember. But yeah, just a few unfortunate engagements for him, overcommitting in a few times in a few places, and not defending particularly well. In fact, not producing any defences to put here permanently, even though I continuously attacked this. Didn't make a planetary, he didn't make a bunker, he didn't position any units, he didn't wall off, he didn't scout enough, he didn't send a medevac around killing pylons or anything like that. So that was a struggle for him, and I hope you enjoyed that game. I will see you later. I haven't played too much of this latest patch in 2017 with all the latest changes as of this video being uploaded, but I will do a bit more and bring you some of those. So I'll see you later, goodbye.